on some action.
Hello, everyone. We are live. How is everyone doing today? Whew, this is a big day, isn't it? Yeah,
It is.
Yeah. So this is our first podcast. Look at this. Look at this nice frame that we got going on here. It's pretty nice, right? Yeah, it's pretty nice. So hi, my name is Oskar.
And my name is Alex.
Yeah. So I don't know where to start from here. This is a big moment here.
Okay, well, anyway, let's just introduce yourself a little bit more and
Yeah,
then tell
sure.
me what's your background, what's your
course.
experience, and go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, my name is Oskar Obchinsky, and I've been doing photography just in general for almost 5 years now.
You mean since you were 5 years old?
No,
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
you're funny. No, for almost 5 years now.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So almost 5 years now, and so I don't know where.
What is the majority of your photography? What is your what photography? What kind of photography are you doing?
Right now, I basically only do dance photography. I don't do really any other kind of photography because I don't really have time for anything else. So as you guys might know, I am a active dancer. I do compete at competitions, like all the time. So actually, that's really how I got into photography in the first place. I was, watching, and then I don't know, for some reason, I remember this like it was yesterday almost. Like, I guess I just saw someone at a competition like with a camera, and I was like, "Ooh, that'd be fun." So I just started researching cameras and stuff. So then they got my first camera, which is a Canon T6i. It was for the first camera, it was not bad. But then,
How long did it took you to realize that's not the camera to shoot the dance sport competitions, though?
gosh, I had that camera for years.
Oh, really? So you were very happy from the beginning, anyway. I mean, just to get what you got.
Yeah, because I didn't know what.
Okay.
I didn't really know what was good, because at the time I was like, I was just happy just to get anything. I mean, $600 for a camera is not that much, but as in general, $600 is a lot. So I got it for my birthday. Gosh, 2017.
Okay.
So my birthday's in September, so I got it September 2017, and then September, and then in August I went to shoot a extravaganza showcase.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's cool.
So that was my first experience. It's funny because
Did you actually talk to the owner? Well, that was Alex Boniff, right?
yeah, I didn't talk to him. I just kind of showed up with my camera.
So you just brought the camera to the showcase without asking anyone if it's okay to shoot, basically shoot
Hey,
pictures.
I didn't know anything. Okay, I just assumed like,
Okay.
I'm just gonna go take pictures, you know. So it was fun. I shot. That was really like eye-opening. You know, that was my first time. Obviously, those pictures were kind of awful when I look at them now. But guess what? You got to start somewhere, right? So, I mean, that was fun. Yeah, I'll get back to you. What about you?
Well, I basically my last 5 years of photography experience is a ballroom dance, and that's, or you can call it dance sport photography. And the way I got into the dance photography, I've done photography prior to that, and that was completely different stuff. I was doing lots of photography and video from the helicopters, and I had a team of, I had photographers and videographers.
Yes, he was hanging outside of the helicopter taking pictures down. That was freaking cool.
So back in the old days, before Google Maps and stuff, when you have to take some oblique images of the future projects in, let's say, they could be airports, they could be bridges, they could be any public buildings, and someone has to take a picture from the helicopter of whatever the proposed site. And that was the photography I was doing for years and years and years. And how I got into the dance, it's almost like kind of by luck, by chance. Anyway, my wife, I was working in actually Kansas for a while and flying back and forth on a weekly basis home. And by the way, I was doing some photography there for the city of Kansas. But
so basically, your job was not mainly photography. It was just kind of like a side thing that helps you do your job.
Photography was the part of what I was doing, and not necessarily I was the top photographer. I was usually the second guy on the helicopter who had the camera, but I knew the project. So
he wasn't even the main photographer.
Right. So, but I was doing photography for very, very long.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you still had experience with the camera and using it. So that really did help you.
So, but again, just how I got into the dance while I was in Kansas, my wife started taking dance lessons, and I'm coming back home, and she tells me about that stuff. And one day she goes, "Yeah, come over. We're having this like tiny little studio showcase," and it was in Glencoe, Illinois. Glencoe is about 5 minutes away from where I am.
Yeah.
And we came over.
Yes, you just decided like, oh, might as well just try to go take some pictures.
And I asked my wife to ask the teacher if I can bring the camera, if your husband can shoot pictures. And believe it or not, the first answer was, no, we're not. That's absolutely uncomfortable for most of the people in the studio if someone's going to be taking pictures and stuff. And well, believe it or not, 5 years later, I guess now, if stuff like that, people would never ask. They would just pull the iPhone and just shoot pictures. Okay.
Yeah, because I even back then, just a few years ago, iPhone quality like has skyrocketed recently. Like it's so much better than what it used to be. Obviously, much better than what it used to be. But phones, in my opinion, I don't think will ever get to the quality of what a professional multi-$1,000 camera can do. Like. Not even close.
Right, but
and with a trained professional using the camera.
But also a little bit off the topic. But let's say if I'm by no means a professional videographer, but I'm not even attempting to. But if I pull my phone, I can take a clip of the dancer on the floor and post it, and it will be looking decent or half decent. Photography, that doesn't work. The photography you take on the dance floor is just too fast, and it's artificial lighting.
Yeah, phones just don't keep up with that.
It's just impossible to do. So if you want to have memories,
you got to hire the professional. Basically,
you have to hire the professional, and that's where we stand today.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we move on to the next topic? Why we work together and how we work together?
Yeah. So, do you want to talk about how we met? I'll talk about that. So basically,
go ahead.
How do we meet? Quite interesting story. So actually, we met at a showcase.
At the dance showcase.
At a dance show, yeah. I gotta be more clear about that. At a dance showcase, which was I don't remember what year, probably 2018, maybe 2017. I'm not sure.
About 4 years ago.
Yeah, I would say about that. So we've known each other for quite a few years now. Actually, I didn't know about. I completely forgot it. Time flies, really. But yeah, so we met. Basically, I just saw because I recently became a photographer. He was already a photographer. I'm also somewhat recently. so then I just came up to him because he looked like a photographer, and I was like, oh, I gotta, expose myself, gotta come up to him. Looked like an approachable guy, So I came up to him, started talking. I think we just bonded immediately. We just started talking about photography stuff. That was so much fun, talking with someone. Finally, eyes opened. Talking to a different person about what you love. Also, just like sharing the community. Like, guys, before that, I never got to really talk with anyone about photography because my mom wasn't interested. She doesn't care really, but like with someone who knows this and who cares about it is a cool experience.
And vice versa for me. For me, talking to Oskar, who was a dancer, who was performing dancer, and also very interested in photography. For me, that was like I'm getting on the inside of what is going on with the dancer in the dancer's head. Mm-hmm. And I got so much more understanding from talking to him, and then he is linking me to specific things in photography which I need to address and need to do.
Yeah, basically we kind of work together
right.
on how to
I don't know if
improve.
This is a good time to switch to the topic, but sometimes if he's dancing right now on the floor and I'm shooting pictures and I'm official photographer for the event, he would come to me and he would tell me about his routine. Some of his routine I do know, and I know where I need to be on the dance floor.
But this is only specialized if you kind of come to the photographer ahead of time, get to know him.
So it doesn't matter what it is, but if you're a professional photographer, even for super professional photographer, it's nice to know the routine of the dance the dancer. So
if you want to get the best images, because then you can kind of plan for it. Okay, like for instance, I do a jump in one of my dances.
Correct.
And if I told you ahead of it, then you can kind of get right in front of me and also you can get ready so that when I jump, you're ready for it and you can get the nice shot and be aimed and everything.
So I'm kind of jumping way ahead of myself, I guess,
That's
in the conversation. But,
Go ahead.
But this is what's very important message to the dancers. Like lots of dancers, they're just expecting phenomenal pictures, but they not always come to the photographer and work with the photographer to let him know that what's going to be happening on the floor. So it's very super important for us to communicate correctly. And actually, in some photographers will deny this whole thing and this whole affair that the photographers need to know the dancer. But I believe that the photographers
you definitely need
absolutely need to know the dancer.
Yes.
And not necessarily I'm going to be expecting from the dancers to look at my face. Or
obviously the dancers still need to focus on their dancing,
so
but if they can come ahead of time so that the photographer can be prepared, because like people expect that photography is just like super easy. I have been people like that. All you do is just click the shutter button.
Just click the shutter. Yeah, put it out and shoot the click button.
People don't understand. It's not that easy. And so people just expect, okay, I'm just going to go look at my pictures after the fact, which sometimes they turn out good because sometimes the photographer is in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But if you come and help him, then it could be more of a chance that you can get a good shot.
Right.
Obviously.
Also, as far as, for one thing, like I said, Oskar is a dancer and he gave me lots of insights, but also my photography is not only the photography I'm doing on the floor. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
And I would like to edit my photography after whatever I shot,
which is actually different than some other photographers. Some other photographers don't like to edit, but it comes down to personal preference and what your time allows for you and stuff like that. But
sometimes it is personal preference, but lots of times the owners of the competition expecting you, and the dancers expecting you to put right away pictures on their iPad so they can come over and look in their pictures.
It's not that easy. People expect like, oh, okay, take a picture. All you do is go there. No. There's a person manually having to sort all of your pictures, which could be literally thousands. Well, it is thousands.
It is thousands.
Over the course of a few days, it's thousands of images that someone has to manually go through. And without even... And some people don't even have the liberty to go and check even.
Right.
I don't know. For me, at least go and check. Because I don't know. You might not even check and you might have something good.
Right.
And we spend lots of time. Like meaning like the photographer or... any photographer spent a lot of time trying to sort everything. So at least go and check on it, just to at least give a little bit of, niceness to the people,
right?
To the photographer, because he spent lots of time and effort and money on this. Like,
correct.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I never thought that we're going to be talking on the first podcast about that. But anyway, I guess we are talking.
I guess it came to it.
I guess it just came to that topic. And I tell you this. So out of again, it's all I'm talking about, my experience and Oskar's experience. So I'm just kind of going to throw the number there. So if I shot 10,000 images, then probably 85% of those images no one ever seen. And
Not purchased, just seen.
Just seen, yeah. So this is pretty harsh statement, but
It's a truth.
and it's
It's a sad truth.
It's a sad truth that the photographer is making lots of work and lots of effort, and at some point he has to give up on editing and give up on communicating and doing marketing stuff so people can get to the site and see their stuff. So lots of photography have never been seeing. And also it's not doesn't mean that it's not used, because through the year you have some competitions and you have time in between. So I am going back, let's say I'm going back to the competition photography, and if I want to if I found some amazing images for let's say for marketing purposes, or for just basically saying happy birthday to one of the artists, or for one of the
then you would go back through your archive and look for some good images.
Right. So and sometimes sometimes you're publishing your photography.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're doing exhibitions with your photography. Sometimes you're posting it on the Getty Images
or for marketing, right?
Marketing.
Yeah.
So it's used, but at the time of the competition, I'd say it's a fair number to say that.
But still, even after the fact, you're only using a few images later from that competition. So still, approximately 80 to 85% are not even looked at, which is sad.
And since we're talking this topic, this is another interesting stuff. So we didn't talk about our gears, right? Or did we?
Not yet.
Not yet. So shooting with ESLRs until this year, let's say if you shot 1,000 images, that probably 500 of them going through the editing, they end up in the garbage.
Basically, what he's trying to say is that DSLRs, the good photo rate is much lower. Like how many images you take versus what you get out is usually much lower with DSLRs.
It also depends on what kind of photographer you are and what experience do you have. So some photographers I'm talking to, and they claiming that 90% of the images are good. To tell you the truth, is maybe their standard is a little different than mine, because I am an artist.
I don't think anyone's can. I don't. No matter who you are, I don't think you can get 90% good.
Yeah. So to me,
no matter who you are,
to me, the more honest conversations I have with my fellow friends, fellow photographers, some will tell you that only 20% of the images are decent and good, and some saying maybe 50%.
That's more realistic, I would say.
And that's more realistic.
Yeah.
But if someone tells you that,
maybe not 20% are good. Usually, in my experience, it's about, you don't throw away that much. In my experience, it's 50 to 70% good.
That's fine. That's fine.
By good, I mean like able to show, like that. There's nothing like it's not autofocus, not a head chopped off, like stuff like that is usually approximately 70%.
Correct.
But what people actually want to buy. Now that's a different story.
That's another story.
Yes.
And again, there are different buyers. There are that's all together. I'm sure we're gonna make a podcast on the topic of who's buying photography from the dance sport competitions. But it's a big difference on there are professional dancers and there are amateur dancers.
Yes.
And there is a difference how they approaching the images and what they want out of the photographer, and how the photographer is responding to the request of, let's say, someone who's number one in the world today versus, or not necessarily their request, but the request of the, let's say, dress designer or shoe designer, versus the request from the owners of the competitions, what their expectations are to the photographer.
Which, from the point of the organizer, the expectations of the photographer are really quite high. From my experience, because they want good stuff, and obviously they want good stuff. I mean, who doesn't want good stuff?
Obviously,
right?
Stuff, yes.
But it's hard because, like, actually good stuff. What would you approximate percentage, like 5% are really good?
I don't think it's even 5%. So,
Yeah.
So my standards are
You're right, probably less.
Right. So for the amazing image, you may have
Maybe like 1 or 2%.
You may have one, or like, again, my grading and rating, you may have 2-3 images out of the competition when you shot 10,000 images. So those are phenomenal images.
Yeah,
But good images are probably 5% of that. Yeah, it's
like
probably
usable.
fair.
You can post on my Facebook. There's no like weird like facial expressions or anything like that.
Well, it's better than that. But anyway, so there are different things. But like Oskar just said, yes, basically, easily the top, out of 10,000 images, 100 of them will end up in the garbage right away because they're blurry, because they're not framed right, because the expressions of the faces could be completely not acceptable.
Yes.
Not acceptable by any standards, by the photographer standards or by the dancer standards. And after you're doing this photography for a long time, you're developing like a sixth sense for what's good and what's not good, what people may use, and what you may just throw in the garbage. So there are various things in there you have to think about anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to talk a little bit about like why we want to start the podcast? We didn't talk about that. We talked about who we are, but let's talk about like why we want to start this podcast. Like do we talk about that? Not really, right?
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, so basically the reason why we want to start this podcast is to kind of, bring you the behind the scenes of like how it actually is like behind the booth. Because in case you were curious, and also to talk about gear. Because also something with like you could come to our podcast if you're a photographer like who wants to kind of get into this business, not necessarily get into it by being an official photographer, by just being and just like kind of learning about what gear is useful for dance photography versus what's not, what settings or like stuff like that. We'll get into that eventually. Not here today. Here we're just a general overview. But so we just want to share, like I was going to say, like we're going to talk about gear a little bit here also, what we like about it, like basically a review, like what we like, what we don't like. But just to get this out there, we both shoot Canon, and that's very useful.
That is one of the reasons. And again, we're absolutely not against any other brand. I mean, I know
definitely not.
Lots of friends photographers who's shooting with Sony and Nikon, but for us, it was important that we teaming together. One of the reasons we are shooting the same gear. So let's say if I need a lens, and by any chance I drop my lens on the floor, that Oskar will have a lens. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, it's basically more compatibility.
Right. So it's actually very, very nice to have the second pair of hands and second pair of eyes and the second pair of the gears. So
especially because you can't be on your feet for 15 hours at a time. Right. So for instance, I'll be sorting all the pictures and everything, and he'll be taking pictures. And then maybe a few hours later, we would go and switch, and he'll be tagging, I'll be taking pictures, just so that you can kind of take a break from taking pictures. Because taking pictures is fun. But not when you're doing it for 15 hours. It depends who you're shooting, but that's a different story.
Right, but what Oskar just talk about it is an absolutely right thing. So I don't believe that you can be a greatest photographer after you're on the floor for 3 days shooting 15, 16 hours days.
Your brain is a little bit like mush.
So after a while, you're getting tired. Any person is getting tired. And
even though these mirrorless cameras that we have are light, it still gets heavy, and eventually, like you kind of get a little bit drowsy and a little bit like washed out your eyes. So you want to take a break.
Basically, you're doing 10,000 movements a day, bringing the camera up to your eye, and that's a 10-pounder. So you're making lots of actions, or you're getting up and down. You're changing the position where you're shooting from.
You're walking on your feet a lot.
Right. So this is very important that not only your gears are interchangeable between two of you. Also, if some error is happening, that you can go to the second person and just drop the camera, pick another camera, and that person will fix whatever's wrong with the camera.
Yes.
So and you're gonna.
And that's also really good. Why we almost have the same camera. So I have a Canon R6, which I recently bought. Absolutely loving it. I'm using it to film this right now, and he has an R5, which is right here with the beautiful 7200 RF, f2.8, of course. It's really expensive, but oh my god, the images can be really nice and sharp out of that combination.
Yes, and then again, we're going to be discussing about specifics of the camera a little bit later.
Yeah, that's a different episode.
Interesting enough, so I was shooting last week Windy City Open in Chicago, and few people came to me out of the crowd, and they were like probably watching me working for a while, and they would really come to me and just bug me with the question if I'm shooting R6 or R5.
Who cares?
And no, but anyway, they were just really curious what camera I'm shooting with.
Well, actually, that can be useful to know.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So some people would like to know, and then some actually would slip the business card in my pocket. So they're saying, hey, can we talk later? I want to know something.
Yeah.
And that's actually awesome that people are so, and they're not necessarily professional photographers, but they are really curious about the gears. And in this podcast we'll get to the point when we're going to be sharing a little bit more detail of what settings we're using to do dance sport photography. Yeah. So basically it is a sport photography, it's a moving target, and it's all happening inside.
And it takes a lot of practice and skill.
Right.
This is not your average hill a kilometer away. Like this, I'm not saying landscape is easy to shoot, but with a moving target, you definitely need to be a little bit more aware, and it's hard. Like to get good shots, to get good framing while it's moving. Okay, so these cameras, because they're mirrorless, they have super great autofocus, which I'm really grateful for.
That's a good point.
Like the IAF locks on. These cameras are really good at that. But again, specifics about that will be later in a different episode. Right here, we just want to talk about general.
But it's good that you brought it up, because I mean the main idea is that both of us switched to the mirrorless cameras within less than a year, and
been loving it so far.
We're loving it so far, and there are some still nostalgic things about the DSLRs, but for the most part, the eye tracking feature on the camera is phenomenal.
Even just that alone is worth going to that, because before, at least from in my experience with my DSLR, which used to be a 6D Mark II, which is kind of like a prosumer DSLR, wasn't professional, but wasn't like super cheap.
Yeah, it's a nice camera.
It was good.
It's a nice
camera. I liked it. But I remember it was so heavy. Like I had a battery grip on it too, because I like having the vertical, and extra batteries is also nice. But actually, the battery life on these are good also. But just a side thing.
Actually, that's
better than I expected.
Believe it or not, that's one thing I like about DSLRs. Yeah, I could go with just one battery for 8 hours.
Obviously, the DSLR battery life is still better, but here it's not bad.
So there is no way that feature is. I'm sure the battery will improve over the years.
Oh, yes.
and stuff.
Like originally, like on the original like Sony mirrorless cameras, like 5 years ago, battery life was kind of awful. Like you had to switch it out like every hour or so. It was bad, but now it's better. Okay, I'm not gonna get sidetracked.
Right.
But like I was saying before, us having the same camera brand and almost the same camera, because R5 and R6 are practically the same.
Right.
When it comes to the body and feel.
About a week ago, we actually went over the settings, and we are very, very similar.
Very close. Just a few things a little bit off.
Few variations, but basically. And that makes it so much easier to work together. Actually, this is just one of the things I really appreciate, that we're on the same gear.
Yeah, like the main point is that, like what you were saying about, like you can drop the camera if something, you have a problem, whatever, then you can pick up a different camera, and it's practically the same thing. Like the IF, the inside the viewfinder looks the same. Like the body feels the same. The mount is the same, so you can interchange lenses. So basically, I don't have to buy the same lenses as you do, because we can use them together.
We can complement each other.
Exactly. So I can buy lenses that you don't have, and you can buy lenses that I don't have. Like the 7200, I don't have that. It's expensive. I can't afford it. But you have it. So when we're in a competition, I can use it. And
but also believe it or not, you kind of, even I have much more longer experience, years of experience. But actually, the fact that you approach me and you show me how you're shooting with 24 to 105
Yeah.
wide angles from the low sitting, like basically the camera being in the lowest position when you sitting in the lotus post on the floor,
Yeah.
and you're shooting the really wide angle, and it's completely different experience
and different
completely
images.
different images you're getting. And majority of the people, if you go on the dance floor, for what they're doing, they're only using one lens, and that's a 70 to 200.
Which, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic lens.
It's a great lens.
But really, 95% of the image, not 95, 99% of the image that you see are from a 70 to 100 kind of telephoto. Right. It kind of all looks the same.
Right. So we're finding the way, it's to me, this is an easy way. Well, I don't want to say easy, but it's kind of easy way to get the different look from the same shoot. So if you, okay, it doesn't work for every dance out there, but if you
like especially smooth,
like American Smooth,
fantastic for that.
That's actually absolutely phenomenal for that. So
like the 24 to 105 is the lens that I personally would recommend because of the zoom range. Right. It might not be the sharpest lens in the world, but I think the RF is better at that. But we have no experience with the RF.
It's also not the brightest lens in the world. It's a 4.0 lens. So,
yeah, it's not bad. I mean,
it's not bad, but it's not exactly So don't expect what the, let's say, 2.8 lens will do. Like, don't expect it from 4.8 lens. It's not the same thing.
The 70 to 100 will be sharper and stuff like that, but whatever. What can you do, right?
But anyway, you're still getting a different look, and I like not to be stuck with one look anyway. For certain things, you do need one lens, and for other things, you do need different lens. And besides the point, everyone who dances on the floor, also, and let's say you're winning the competition and you made the top 6 of the specific style, and then there is a lineup, someone has to shoot them. You cannot shoot the lineup with 20 people facing you
with a 70 to 100.
With a 70 to
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. So you do need to have at least second
and that's
or
why
third lens.
Having a person working with you is also really good, because if you by yourself trying to kind of rush and change lenses, going back to your booth and trying to change lenses is hard. But having a second person, the second person, if they're sorting whatever, they can see, okay, there's a lineup coming, so then I can go bring the wide angle lens to him onto the floor, so that the changes the changing of lenses happens on the floor and it's quick, versus you having to run back and forth. So that's why also having a few people with you can also be really good.
Okay. So also sometimes the way I'm catching myself, I'm shooting on the floor and I'm shooting, and all of a sudden I'm not really I'm not looking at the screen telling me that yes, the American Smooth is coming, and Oskar may just come back to me and and say, hey, listen, here's switch the lens
again, back to like the brain mush a little bit, right?
I appreciate that so much because really otherwise you're stuck with the wrong lens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the wrong lens, you would still get a shot, but it's nice to switch lenses, and we talked about that quite a few times anyway, and we're thinking that's very important to shoot with a couple different lenses. And also we're observing other photographers how they work, and again, it's
interesting to see other people work, and the different what different people do differently.
There are lots of people who will shoot with just one lens, and some of them are getting good results.
Which is fine.
And that's fine.
But we like to be a little bit different, and we like to kind of get some diversity in our images. Like, if you've never seen a wide angle shot, being on the long line of like the dance floor and shooting wide angle slightly, we don't necessarily have to be on the floor like laying, but like just sitting on the chair, sitting and shooting upwards can be such a cool image.
Right.
Because especially for people who have never seen that before, that kind of an angle. Right. If you show anyone a good wide angle, wow. It's like, whoa, I've never seen this before.
And again, depending on what those images are used for, but let's say majority of the dance sport photography is a vertical photography. So
like 99%.
90%.
Yeah, 90%.
90% of that is vertical. But again, let's say I have a website, you have a website. So the screen is horizontal.
Yeah, the screen is horizontal.
So getting a wide angle using a wide angle lens.
For wide angle is pretty much only horizontal, and that can also be a different look because people are so used to the vertical style.
Correct.
When they see horizontal, kind of like bigger, it's like, ooh, this is nice.
So this is really makes a difference.
And it's better for a wall too.
And I almost wish that Canon and Nikon would come up with a lens like basically 24 to 105 and 2.8. I don't know what the lens is gonna look like, but
it's
again,
gonna be probably like this big.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there, but not necessarily. Maybe I don't.
It's gonna cost like $8,000.
Okay, maybe I don't need 24 millimeter, but let's say 35 to 120 range. 2.8.
Actually, the 24
to 70 exist, but
that's not enough range.
70 is not enough range for the dense photography.
Because 70 is where this thing starts. 70 trying to go even a little bit of distance is hard.
Right. So anyway, and maybe one day we'll see that lens produced by any of the by any of the manufacturers.
Maybe to 100. Like if they could come out with like a 24 to 100 f2.8, maybe then I have my attention. Because I don't think there's 24 to 105 with a 2.8.
It's probably
not going to happen.
It's a huge lens anyway.
Yeah.
The way I'm understanding that. But anyway, for now, 24 to 105 works. It's
for sure.
It's our second lens. We can shoot lineups and group shots. We can also shoot smooth dense, and also well, again, since we're talking lenses, I'm actually carrying all the time is a 50 millimeters or 85 millimeter lens. And some photographers I know using 135, and that's
using prime lenses. And if you don't know, prime lenses are lenses that don't zoom; they just have a fixed zoom. They can be quite hard to use for dance photography because, again, like we said before, it's a moving subject. So trying to get it with a fixed length, you can't zoom in and out. That's going to be hard. Some people do it.
And you're getting much less
useful
imagery out of that shoot. So in other words, if on the floor there are 5 photographers, and let's say I used to shoot, business meetings and stuff, and parties and stuff like that. And yes, if you have an assistant photographer who specifically you're discussing what he's doing, he's using just, let's say, 50 millimeter lens, and you know what he's shooting, so you're not shooting the same thing. And that's just complementing the main photography.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, we will probably never shoot at the same time. But we might if we have an order.
That's not true. We can shoot sometimes.
I guess that's true. But okay, but my point is that, for instance, if you're shooting with a 70-200 or a telephoto of some sort, and then if you're shooting with that, then I can shoot wide angle.
Correct.
And probably even if we're in pretty much the same spot, because it's such a different lens, it's not going to look the same.
It's not. No.
Like not even close.
And it's actually right. So
not the difference between the 70-200 vertical and the 24 to 105 horizontal.
Correct.
Huge difference.
It's a huge difference anyway. And how I got into this basically wide, horizontal photography is in the last, I'd say, year and a half, maybe over the COVID time. Actually, I don't want to talk COVID, but basically it's the last 2 years. When someone would come to me, the owners of the studios, let's say you're building a new studio and you opening a new business, and you're trying to dress up the studio, and so
yes,
lots of people printing images. I'd say 4 by 6 feet, well, basically life-size prints, and it's really nice to have alternative to the vertical views. So
I actually put a picture, one of his pictures of me up on my wall in our studio.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did.
I didn't even see it.
Oh, really?
Did I? No.
It's a 2 by 3 foot print.
Okay.
Of me in the possible position. You know that one?
That
one with Greta. We love it.
No,
we printed it too small though.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. That interesting enough, the size matters. I mean, we're not thinking.
Oh,
lots of people thinking. Sure. 5 years ago, I would have lots of, let's say, my home studio. I call my home studio is a Glencoe studio, where the owners are Peter Minkoff and Alex Boniff, and that home studio literally, 2 minutes, 5 minutes from my house, for one thing. Anyway, and actually by the way. Those two guys helped me big time get into the dance photography. And we're still working a lot. Not still, we are working together a lot.
Yeah.
So some of the ladies who's taking lessons from, let's say, Alex, they would print a stock of 4x6s. And they would print like many pictures, and I'm looking at this 4x6 pictures, and I'm getting very very unhappy. Okay, my face is like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how good our imagery, 4x6 or even 5x7 prints, they kind of so. But if you take the good image and you've printed by
like 8x10,
like starting, I'd say 16x20. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Or
That's
20
good. That's a good
or
size.
20x30, and you frame it. Don't it have to be expensive framing?
Yeah, like from like Target or something.
Like standard frames from Target, 20x30. They look completely different. They look like, wow, this is me actually, and yes, it is you.
Trust me, printing something physically, it can be such an eye opener to some good pictures.
Right.
Because like seeing it in real life is, trust me, completely different than how you see it on a computer. Seeing it real life, it can be so much. You could enjoy that picture and like have it forever. I don't know. It's just such a cool and different experience printing it.
Makes a big difference. The week ago we were shooting at Windy City Open.
Yeah.
And my display, actually, that's the first time I had 20,
Are you going to go into this? Okay.
20x30 size samples. And people love to see those 20x30 samples. I mean, that just does make a difference.
Probably because they're not used to it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, because like, I really wonder how many people actually print the images they buy from photographers.
Quite a few people I know. I mean, lots of people print them. But again, my advice to people is, and every time they print, I tell them, stop doing this 4x6s. So in other words,
it's too small.
In other words, when you go on my website and someone wants to take the picture, I'm going to be revising what I'm offering there. I'm going to take 4x6 out of the offerings anyway, because it's just too small. And when you compress everything in 4x6s, believe it or not, the images are getting dark, no matter what you do, and they're just the wrong format anyway for the dance pic. It's a good memory for the album, but
yeah, if you want to, 4x6 can be good if you want to kind of gather more images and then put it into like a photo album of like you over the years, for instance, something like that.
Right.
But if you're not doing that, if you're gonna put it up on the like a wall, it's too small.
It's
at
too small.
Least like 8x10.
But also, believe it or not, I know lots of people who are using imagery. Since we're talking imagery printing, I have a few clients who are coming back for pictures every time, and they buy the whole package. They don't buy one single image. They buy,
which is interesting,
right? Which is interesting. And now we're offering packages. So the package will cover, let's say, your full day of dance, and you may have, I don't know, 20 single dances over the day, maybe 50. I don't know how many. I mean, it could be a lot.
It depends, because you can dance multiple different styles and everything like that.
So when someone ahead of time giving the photographer the opportunity to shoot all day, when you're coming on the floor, let's say 10 times, in photographer is actually, it's already okay. I don't want to go in the pricing or anything, but it's already prepaid photography, so they already hired you.
Yes, which is good, because then that means they can like focus on you and they already know what to do. And again, like we talked about earlier, if you go to a photographer ahead of time and say, okay, I have a cool trick that I want you to take a picture of in here in this dance, I want the best angle could be like right in front, for instance, make sure you're there, then we would be more than happy to do that for you, because we want you to get good stuff. That's the point.
Right. And the new trend and those are just happening on the dance floor. So not being an official photographer, you're just another photographer, guest photographer. So some photographers offering what they call a round of dances. So it's up to 5 dances.
Yep.
And one of the guys who actually introduced me to this idea is Dan Browning. He's out of Twin Cities, right? Is that where he lives?
Not sure.
Anyway, and he started talking about that, and I looked at what he've done, and I'm thinking, wow, this is actually a good idea. So the photographer only engaged in the process of what he is doing for literally 5 minutes. So it could be 5 dances, 1 minute, maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. So, and most people don't even dance five dances. They help me out here.
No.
Like
It's usually 5.
But most people don't dance 5. They dance like 3 or 4 at most, right? Out of the round.
Well, it depends what style, because Latin is 5. Most are 5, but only
Okay.
one is 4. No, most people dance 5.
So basically, what
Or 4.
what the idea here is that you're not shooting all day. You're just shooting. Someone sign up for the package, which is small package, only 1 round, up to 5 dances, and the photographer's focusing on you and you only. So I'm not shooting 10 couples on the floor. I'm only focusing on you, and that's giving me the opportunity to really create beautiful imagery for those people who really wants that. So
Yes.
so again, so thank you, Dan, for introducing me to this whole idea, and I hope that we're gonna see more of this on the dance floor, because that's not a trend yet. Though that's what I was doing actually at the Windy City last week. So I
Hey, you were a guest photographer, and that was a cool experience, right?
it's a different experience.
It's a very different experience. So there's the official photographer, not the official, the main photographer who's doing like shooting everyone, so that you can go and check later without warning him in the first place. And then there's obviously then you, which is actually kind of like a new. It's not a trend yet, but it might be.
I don't think it's a trend yet, but we're working with dance, basically competition organizers.
Yeah,
and,
the organizers.
and people who dance on the floor, and photographers introducing this idea. And the idea, some photographers will tell you, oh, listen, this is a horrible idea. I want to be the only exclusive photographer, and if I'm not exclusive, I'm not going to shoot
Some people will
this.
tell you that, but guess what? You got to try new things.
Right.
Because if you're going to go throughout the whole old business style always, like business model, sorry, like there might be something better that you haven't figured out, because you're you're more closed-minded. You got to try new things. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Right? What do you lose, really? Like,
No,
not that much.
Every competition, honestly, every competition I'm shooting, I'm trying something new. Either that the basically different business model, different packages I'm offering, different ideas how I'm presenting, or different ideas of what kind of lenses I'm using. So it could be various things.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what the competition is, how well and that's actually very important, how well you not only know the competition organizer, but only how well can you engage him in the conversation, photography conversation. I
Yes.
think it's super important. Some do know more, some expecting more.
It's very important to get friends in this industry.
Right.
You need to basically need to be friends with everyone. Like everyone, dancers, organizers, judges, like as many people as you can. Expose yourself, obviously, not only for advertising, but also try to get new gigs, stuff like that. Because right now there's not that many people that do dance photography. There's actually more. Like we recently joined, and also there's another guy who recently joined, which is good. There should be more stuff like this in the industry.
Yeah, the idea I like about not just dance photography, but sport photography.
Yeah.
When you go to the football game, how many photographers you're gonna see there?
Oh my God.
Shooting. It's gonna be 20, 30.
Some people saw
40.
like you can see a picture like at the Olympics.
Right. It could
Like,
be 50
photographers
50
all with the same lens.
Right. It's exactly, and they all have the place there, and they're all competing. Well, I don't know if they're exactly competing to each other. They most likely they working for different media agencies or different newspapers. So the accreditation could be various, but anyway, it could be very interesting. And I like to see multiple photographers working any sport events. And in that sense, dance photography is a little bit different. Traditionally, it's like one photographer who's in charge of everything, and I guess we can share that it's a good and a bad, because there is no way one photographer can cover everyone for one thing,
Yeah, I mean it's good for the photographer itself because he kind of has like, let's just say, a monopoly basically.
Exclusive monopoly.
Yeah, which is good and bad. It's good for him. He gets all the business, but at the same time, some people might not like that because then he doesn't focus on everyone at the same time. He might miss someone because most of the time there's only one person shooting.
Right.
And sometimes, which I don't personally like, but they sometimes sit in the same spot.
Correct. Yes. So some
Move around, please.
Some professional photographers we are observing on the floor, and they've been there for for a very long time. I mean, the very long time in dance photography is 5 years. I'd say because no one saw. I don't know.
Yeah,
too many people
unfortunately, some people kind of get burnt out. So they get burned out and stop because they gotta spend more time with their families, or it's not worth it, or it's hard. This industry is hard. That's why we try to change a little bit to make it better, so people don't get burned out and we can stay longer. Yeah, I mean it's
another
hard.
topic altogether.
This is
another topic.
This topic we're gonna go more in depth on a future episode.
Yeah, we're kind of throwing lots of stuff in the first podcast, but anyway, I guess that's what we got lots of stuff on our minds, and then we're touching different.
And that's exactly why we're doing this podcast.
Exactly,
because we're gonna try to share our experiences, and we want to get stuff off of our mind to try to hopefully this can help you guys get into this, and so you guys kind of could get like different like ideas or experiences, like, oh, I've never thought of it like this that way before, stuff like that.
And actually, believe it or not, we didn't exactly thought about that through the entire conversation, but basically we would like to not only help dancers to work with photographers, we also want to help competition organizers to get to know photography a little bit better.
Yeah, because usually they don't know. How would they know?
Usually
they wouldn't.
Usually they wouldn't. And
so we want to kind of help them understand how it actually is, also, because it could be quite useful to know how it works.
Also, there are lots of young people, well, like
me,
like you, who wants to get into the industry. And well, I mean, we would love to share our knowledge, so the young photographers would be knowing where they're going into, what are they expecting, and we love to share our knowledge. And
because I have many I worked with many different people in the past when it comes to dance photographers. Like I've worked with Ryan Kenner before. I've worked with
Charles.
I haven't really worked with Charles, actually. No, I talked to him before.
Okay.
He's a nice guy, but I haven't worked for him. But
who else did you work for?
Alex Rowan.
Okay.
Alex Rowan. Sorry, I got blanking on his name.
One-time experience, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because then after that, I worked for him at. Okay, so at first I worked with him at Millennium, but then.
What is Millennium, if for someone who doesn't know?
Oh yeah, for sure. So basically, Millennium is it's a pretty big competition, mainly for Pro-Am students. For like, it's just a really big competition, and I think it's in Florida. So, and it's just a big competition, essentially what it is. So then I came up to him and I was like, oh, can I do this? And he was like, sure. So then I kind of took I actually took his camera, which was Nikon's.
Okay.
Nikon cameras.
Oh, wow, I didn't know he shot.
Yeah, he shot Nikon. Okay. So actually, that was pretty cool. So I got to shoot Nikon, and that was my first time ever shooting Nikon.
Wow. How did you figure that out that quick? I mean,
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, don't say that then.
It was really. I'm sorry.
I mean, he gave you pretty much the setting. Is kind of the.
No, of course it was already set up, but I tried to just change like the focusing points. It was a DSLR, obviously. This was a few years ago. I don't think the Z series didn't even come out yet.
Probably not. Yeah.
So I tried to just change the focusing points. Like how focus is like usually is it like a blocks or like a single point, just that kind of auto-focusing points. I couldn't.
Wow.
I couldn't figure it out. So like on my Canon camera, I kind of got used to it.
Did you get a chance to see the pictures you took that time? Or not?
What kind of? It's kind of hard because obviously they're all smushed. All the images are smushed together into the same folder.
So it's hard to.
It's hard to see. But on the back of the camera, I was loving the colors.
Okay.
I was loving the colors that were coming out of it. It was really nice. Obviously, I was a prosumer, like high end DSLR. I think it was like D700, So it's like a high end. I don't remember the number exactly.
Believe it
but
or not, the reason I'm asking you this is I was always thinking like a very very short story I have from the very like many years ago. I was a architectural illustrator, doing some renderings for city of Chicago anyway, and basically. The guy I was working for was Ryan Slutsky, and then anyway, it was like 5 or 6 artists there, and we were all working under his name. So when you're done making your rendering is done, he would come over and he would put the signature on the drawing.
like saying like it's good.
No. His signature would be sitting, his initials would be sitting on the drawing, because what he was selling to the client is Rael's pictures,
Like his picture.
not Alex Gilman photography.
Yes, because you work for him, so that makes sense.
Right. So that did make sense at the time, but in this case, in the case of photography, it's very easy actually to identify if the photographers working together. I don't see anything wrong with, let's say, if you're working for me, and yet I would like to acknowledge that you took some images, and maybe in the name of you can set your name, just your initials in the camera in the file name, and that would,
because also
I think it would be a good idea just to acknowledge, because every photographer who, I don't believe in this, you working for me and you are nothing and I'm taking all the advantages by putting my name on everything.
That can be quite hard to expand after that.
So basically, what you know, that the photographer who's going to be working for you after 2, 3, 4, 5 years will most likely leave and just go on his own or something.
And then guess what? You have experience, but no one knows you.
Right. And
which can be quite hard to get into either a different business or start your own.
So those discussions, again, it's a topic for all this copyright and everything, is a topic we would like to get to at the later date. But basically, it's very important who own the copyright, and even let's say 2 photographers.
That's a very controversial topic, but you know, that's what this podcast is about. You know, trying to share our experiences and try to just.
Okay, I mean, so what else do we have on agenda?
I don't know. I think that's it, right? Why we want to start a podcast, right? I mean, I think that's it, right?
We kind of covered.
I mean, we're here for a long time, like.
Okay, so listen.
Almost an hour.
Okay, I think this was a long podcast. We didn't even expect that we're going to talk that much, but
I liked it.
I think lots of interesting topics we talked about, and that's pretty standard how we do it. So basically, we're going into we're going into this basically recorded mode now, sharing our experience and how we work together and what competition we're covering and what we're trying to address and why we're doing one thing or another, and how we want to basically help everyone understand photography and get better results. Because I mean, the bottom line, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but the bottom line, what I want everyone to have is that amazing image of you sitting as a poster or as a wall art. I guess poster is not such a great word lately. On the wall, and you very proud of what you've done. I mean, you put lots of hours
into dancing.
Yeah,
practicing is hard.
It doesn't matter if you're professional or amateur or, believe it or not, even a kid.
So, whoever you are, you spend lots of time. So it's good to have like this image, you know, like having like a physical, again, back to the printed imagery, right? Having a physical, having on the screen is whatever, but having it in real life, like up on your wall, so you can always see, like every day. That's like, oh, that's nice.
Right.
And
this is it. So I think we pretty much covered what we want to cover, and maybe we went on too many topics today, but anyway, we're planning. You want to talk the scheduling, how we want to do it for the future?
Ideally, we would want to do it every 2 weeks, probably around the same time. Sundays probably would be good.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Appreciate it, and good shooting and good dancing.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe see you in 2 weeks. Okay. See ya.
Bye.